A Clockwork Orange. And Straight Outta Compton? So by a show of hands, who has seen the movie Straight Outta Compton? Alright, can somebody please briefly explain the movie for those who haven't seen it? For example, the plot, the setting, or characters. Dominique?
Okay, so there's 5 people. Eazy-E, Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, DJ Yella, and MC Rim. They all come together to become a group, and it's known as NWA.
Yes.
And it shows their rise and downfall.
Yes, so like Dominique said, it's a biopic about the hip-hop group NWA. They're from Compton, which is in Southern California. And they were a rap group active from the mid-'80s to the early '90s. They're considered the pioneers of gangster rap and hip-hop in the West Coast. And they did experience controversy over their explicit lyrics for allegedly degrading women and glorifying drugs and crime. So you're probably wondering now, what do these guys, Alex and his Jews, as depicted by Stanley Kubrick in the movie adaptation, have to do with these guys? This is NWA as depicted in Straight Outta Compton. That is what I hope to elucidate for you all today, using the following question to guide my analysis. How did the dystopian elements portrayed in Anthony Burgess's A Clockwork Orange emerge in the 2015 film Straight Outta Compton? So, I'd like to ask you all, what are the main conflicts that we see in A Clockwork Orange, in simple terms? Anybody know? No one answer? Isaiah?
Is rape and murder a conflict?
I would say that's more of a motif, not necessarily the conflict. Think maybe what we learned in middle school, man versus self.
Okay.
Zach?
What do you like that with Alex and when he was cured, he could have self-conflict. He wanted to do bad things, but he couldn't.
Hey, y'all better answer all my questions.
Okay, so what I was looking for was, in simplest terms, Alex versus himself and Alex versus the state. So, man versus self and man versus society. Man versus society. Does that sound familiar at all in terms of NWA? Yeah. So, they were well known for expressing extreme hostility toward the police system in songs such as F the Police, which involves racially charged police brutality. This brings us to the first and foremost similarity between Straight Outta Compton and A Clockwork Orange, which is a shared central conflict. The youth versus, as Burgess describes, the almighty state. And this conflict manifests itself through many of the major motifs in both works. The first is music. This is probably the most significant of them all. Here I've collected some quotes, images, and videos to illustrate my point. Here. To the right, Alex describes the euphoria that he experiences while listening to music in part 1. Then my brothers they came, oh bliss, bliss in heaven. I lay on the goiseless ceiling, my gulliver on my rookers on the pillow, glazzies closed, lot open in bliss, swooshing the sluice of lovey sounds. Oh, it was gorgeousness and gorgeosity made flesh. And to the left, Dr. Dre listens to music to escape the disheartening reality of financial and familial hardships. And in the movie screenplay, the scene is described as follows. Eyes closed, lying on his bed, slight smile pursing his lips, he bobs his head as levels go up and down, based on Dre's subtle facial reactions to the various sounds. He singles out individual elements, and as he goes, we hear them, highlighting some sounds, increasing others. Bass, drums, piano, voice. Now, you might have noticed that this is strikingly similar to Alex's state of bliss while hearing music. During Beethoven's Ninth, for instance, he responds to the dynamics within the piece and isolates each individual instrument. And on page 46, he describes it as follows. There it was then, the bass string was like governating away from under my bed at the rest of the orchestra, and then the male cumulus coming in and telling them all to be joyful. Here, Alex provides his own commentary on an article he once read. Great music, it said, and great poetry would like quieten modern youth down and make modern youth more civilized. Civilize my civilized yarbles. And he explains that music actually excites him even more to do ultraviolence. And this same rejection is seen to the left as a massive crowd of youth assembles to hear NWA perform the song Dope Man. And this indicates that in both works, young people use music as a means of expressing their free will and their identities in relation to authorities. Now, here I have a clip to show you regarding NWA and their freedom of speech.
Y'all just got a snapshot of how Americans really feel. We gave the people a voice. We gave the people
truth. Yeah, but your songs, they glamorize the lifestyle of gangs, guns, drugs.
Our art is a reflection of our reality. What you see when you go outside your door?
I know what I see.
And it ain't glamorous.
You get AKs from Russia and cocaine from Colombia.
Man, none of us got a passport, so you might want to check the source.
Next question.
Will you be more careful about what you say, how you say it?
Probably not, no.
Freedom of speech includes rap music, right? But we exercising our First Amendment as far as I'm concerned.
And the government wrote that.
Okay, so keep in mind what Ice Cube said about our art is a reflection of our reality, because that will come back. Alright, and the next video is the first part of the trailer for the movie, in which Dr. Dre and Ice Cube explain the significance of music to their lives. I'll just show you the first part of it.
Welcome to Compton.
What up, Mike?
Okay. That's where it all started.
We put it all in the music, all our frustration and anger. Our music was like our weapon.
And that's the most powerful weapon we got.
What a lot of people don't realize about NWA, it's nonviolent protest.
We let people know that it's okay to say what you want to say. It's crazy to see how all these different people around the world feel the same way that we feel. We kicked the door down for a lot of artists.
What's up?
The foundation that was set by y'all, man, I'm so appreciative. You know, I just try to keep the flame lit.
What's up?
When I think of NWA, it wasn't really music to me. It was more like a real lifestyle. Brothers from my neighborhood that made it out.
The same thing that we was going through in the 80s with the police people going through right now.
It's a good time for us to tell our story. These some kids from Compton. How we touch the world.
Okay, so back to the presentation. Alright, so keep in mind what Ice Cube said about how people are experiencing the same thing as they did in the 80s with the police, and how NWA's music was nonviolent protest to that, as I will mention that in the future. Okay, so alright, so now I'll discuss some of the other ways that youth distinguish themselves from the state in both works. So in A Clockwork Orange, we witnessed gang-like behaviors when Alex and his Droogs feud with Billy Boy's Droogs, commit ultraviolence, and drink Malogo, which is milk infused with hallucinogenic drugs. And as far as NWA goes, it is disputed whether or not their members had gang associations, but they did depict the street gang lifestyle in Compton using their lyrics, and this incited accusations for promoting crime, violence, drugs, misogyny, etc. And we also see NWA's violent beef with Suge Knight towards the end of the movie. So in a journal on Google Classroom a while back, we discussed how social markers such as fashion and language identify youth as its own subgroup in society. And we see this clearly in A Clockwork Orange with the ridiculous yet intimidating outfits adorned by Alex and his Droogs. And when arrested by Millicent on page 65, Alex uses more NADSAT, or teenage jargon, than usual. I'm blind, Bob busted bleed you grass knee bastards. Bob murder you Bonnie stinking brash knees. And in Straight Outta Compton, the fashion and language are of course more subtle, but they nonetheless isolate the main characters from the police and other groups. You can see here that NWA's members dress similarly in black and LA Raiders gear. And in terms of language, NWA also uses its own unique set of slang. For instance, Eazy-E in this song, Boys in the Hood calling his gun a deuce deuce. So moving on from the stories themselves, I would also like to discuss the public's reaction. By a show of hands, who believes that A Clockwork Orange is too violent or too graphic? Anybody? Okay, well if you had risen your hand, then you would have not been alone. This book has been banned for objectionable language from at least 3 places within the United States and challenged elsewhere. And Kubrick's film adaptation was banned in Britain for 20 years due to public outrage and copycat cases. NWA was banned from several mainstream American radio stations. Early on in the film, Lonzo, Dr. Dre's boss, tells him that reality rap is never going to work. And as the group attracts public attention later, protesters decide to smash the group's records, and this prompts Ice Cube to say, speak a little truth, people lose their minds. Along with the book, NWA's lyrics remain controversial. So, despite the controversy surrounding the social commentaries of both A Clockwork Orange and NWA, both have significantly impacted pop culture and beyond. According to the International Anthony Burgess Foundation, A Clockwork Orange, its impact on literary, musical, and visual culture has been extensive. Although it sold poorly upon its initial publication in Britain in 1962, the novel quickly became an underground hit and was, of course, adapted to film by Stanley Kubrick in 1971, as shown in this movie poster. It is now considered a classic of 20th century literature. Alright, and despite only being active for 6 years, NWA's hardcore reality rap left an enduring legacy on hip-hop music, inspiring later artists such as The Game, 50 Cent, and Eminem. Straight Outta Compton received critical acclaim, scoring an 8.1 out of 10 on IMDb, and 89% on Rotten Tomatoes, and 79% on Metacritic. Scott Foundas, a critic for Variety, described the film as intensely human and personal in its characterizations and attention to detail. Rolling Stones critic Peter Travers stated in the movie that the movie speaks urgently to right now. And as I mentioned, Ice Cube said in the previous clip that our art is a reflection of our reality. So that being said, do you all think that this film would have received such positive reviews if it had been released before police brutality became a hot button issue? No? Okay. Alright. So, to conclude, what I aim to demonstrate in my comparison is that, like Straight Outta Compton, A Clockwork Orange is relevant to the modern world. I realize that although A Clockwork Orange was written over half a century ago, its conflicts are not specific to an era. Man versus himself and man versus society are conflicts that transcend time. We see remnants of the Clockwork Orange world in the United States today. The U.S. has the largest prison population in the world, with an over 50% recidivism rate. In 2015, 355 mass shootings occurred in the United States in 336 calendar days. And as portrayed in Straight Outta Compton, police brutality remains a critical issue in the United States. Perhaps A Clockwork Orange, then, is so controversial because it does not depict a dystopian future, but rather a dystopian present. And I'd like to leave you all with this quote. It's funny how the colors of the real world only seem really real when you're reading them on the screen. Page 103. Thank you.